You're listening to the Avenue Real Estate Group podcast, your weekly source for St. Louis real estate market information. Hi, thanks for listening. This is Greg Abel, and you've tuned in for another edition of the St. Louis Real Estate Market Overview podcast. I'm here at our round table with Kevin Cottrell of the Cottrell Realty Group and Russ Miller of Metro Cities Mortgage. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Greg, wonderful. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Doing awesome, Greg.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Okay, we're going to hit a couple issues here of some news reports that have been in the media here locally in St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Business Journal, those types of things. And there's about four things I want to cover very quickly, so we will roll right into them. On the first one is the St. Louis County may issue temporary occupancy permits. Now, obviously, this is the problem of people trying to buy an as-is property, and with FHA, a certain type of financing, the property has to be ready for occupancy. So if you can't get the loan, you can't buy the property from the bank, you can't do repairs before you buy it, so the only solution would be to get this temporary occupancy permit from the county, which would say you would have 60 days to repair the property after you purchased it. Now, this is just proposed and it's not passed, but is this really a problem? Are we seeing buyers? Are you seeing mortgage applications coming in? Is this even really a problem?
Well, from the real estate side, I mean, we think this is more of an indicator of a disturbing trend, Greg, which is some agents and some retail buyers think and have a misperception that a foreclosure is a great thing to buy as a retail buyer. And the disturbing trend is that the occupancy permit is the tip of the iceberg. Usually it's indicative of the fact that the property's got physical deficiencies and it needs a lot of work and there's a lot of unknowns in there. And what they may perceive to be a small issue that they have 60 days to fix could turn into a major problem. So we've recently actually authored a report on 12 things that every buyer should know before they write an offer on a foreclosure. And we're usually seeing that after they've studied the report, a typical retail buyer, in contrast to an investor who's sophisticated and experienced, will not even move forward with foreclosures. It's not a big factor in our market because usually the investors are the ones that want to buy these down and dirty properties.
Yeah, I say most certainly keep it with the seasoned investors, because I just recently had a retail buyer, like you mentioned, Kevin, try to buy one of these as-is properties, and we closed on it, but it took probably 3 months as opposed to the normal 45 days. The loan that he tried to acquire, or that he did get, was a VA loan, and the VA inspector found several things wrong with the property. Those all had to be repaired out of his own pocket, unbeknownst to him when he first signed the contract.
Gotcha.
So it was a lengthy and very emotional process.
Yeah, I wouldn't. All the as-is properties out there that look like the deal for the typical homeowner.
Keep them with the seasoned investor.
Yeah, just not a deal. Well, let's not spend too much time on this because it is just a proposed issue in St. Louis County, and we can move right on to the next one. So, of course, the next issue in the media, and I have 3 articles here, all the way from, I think, the West End Word, the St. Louis Business Journal, to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. St. Louis foreclosures fall in November. But here's the actual headline, but don't start the party just yet. So, let's talk about it first. Did foreclosures fall in November, Kevin?
Well, what you're seeing here, Greg, is that the numbers are never a significant item in our market. We're only about 12% of the sales volume is foreclosures. So it's never been a big factor, and it's very specific in the areas that it affects. What you're typically seeing in our market is quite a few lenders have followed the lead-in from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is delaying foreclosures until after January 9th. So we did see the actual physical number of foreclosures fall, but I would agree with the headline there, which is we can't start the party yet. But overall, it's not a big factor on our market. We're a very stable market. We have 12% or so of our sales volume is foreclosures. I'll contrast that to a market like Las Vegas or Northern California, like in the Sacramento area, where 70 to 80% of sales volume is foreclosures. It's not a big deal except for a couple of specific areas.
And Russ, I know you're not dealing with a whole lot of foreclosures on your end, but one thing I did want to address in this, and I don't know how you two feel about this, but I have definite thoughts. They always use the statistics. So here in this article, it's measured by RealityTrack. And RealityTrack, how accurate is this data coming from RealityTrack?
Well, RealityTrack keeps track of defaults, and it keeps track of trustee sales notices. So their data tends to be fairly accurate, Greg, from the standpoint of the actual filings. What they're missing is there's a difference between the filings and what actually ends up occurring. What I mean there is sometimes somebody will get a default filed on the mortgage, and we'll pick them up, and our short sale negotiator on our real estate team will help them avoid foreclosure. Well, Realty Track will actually pick up the data point, and it looks like it was a defaulting homeowner, but in the end, they don't actually go to foreclosure.
Is that where some of those numbers were skewed in the St. Charles County? They came out with some figures how St. Charles County was at a much higher default ratio than we thought.
Yeah, well, that's where, absolutely, Russ. You will see some of the numbers be overstated because they don't know ultimately in the reporting window, Greg, what actually happened. And a short sale could actually take several months to get approved. So it will be still sitting in defaulted status, and it'll look like a defaulting or foreclosing home. But in the end, we've had 3 or 4 of these close in the month of December, just in the last week. It was in default. Some of them had notices of sale, and we got them closed without a foreclosure to a new buyer.
With Realty Track, I have trouble because if you go to realtytrack.com, the purpose of this is to be able to track and find pre-foreclosures for investors and things to buy and get other statistics. And I've had personal clients go to this I question the data because some of the addresses they're pulling and things that are supposed to be going into foreclosure don't even exist. So I have a little bit of a problem with Realty Track, and I don't know if you found that same problem.
Well, I don't spend a lot of time on there, but I've seen the same thing. They tend to pick up filings, and one of the things when you have the huge volume, Greg, of defaults and the problems with lenders is some of their data is bad. And so if they actually file on the wrong address in a big market like St. Louis, they may have the wrong address, and if Realty Track picks that up, they're just going to report it. And that's why you see some of the things like you go to map an address and it doesn't exist.
Right.
So I've certainly seen that as well.
Okay. Well, Russ, you ready to move on to the next topic?
Sounds good to me.
This one applies right to you.
All righty.
The St. Louis Business Journal